On the West Virginia Education Association's website, there is a statement written in large red lettering that reads, "Sadly, instead of education reform, it is simply another attack on teachers," referring to Senate Bill 359. Joining us tonight are leaders of the WVEA. President Dale Lee has been teaching for 22 years. He's currently on a leave of absence from teaching special education at Princeton Senior High School. And David Haney is the executive director and has been with the WVEA since 1978. Gentlemen, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, so first of all, for anyone that is not a teacher or doesn't have a teacher in the family, hiring issues for teachers, for those of us on the outside of it, can be a little confusing. So, with that said, let's start with what this bill does in regards to hiring.
Right now there's two sets of criteria when you're considering a vacancy. One for people already in the system, and the second when no one in the system applies. In the first set of criteria, the misconception out there is that seniority is the deciding factor. It's one of 7 criteria. The criteria are experience in the field, certification level, degree level, good evaluations in the past, other measures as described in the job posting, and so it becomes a fact that you're looking at the most qualified based on those 7 set of criteria. Too many times administrators don't want to do the job or don't want to give the reason, as the statute says, if the most senior person is not hired, and say our hands are tied because it's seniority, when in fact it's not.
Does this bill change that criteria?
This bill eliminates the second set of criteria and adds seniority to the first set of criteria, which also includes things like academic achievement, and it makes it really more open-ended because it adds a category of other, where county boards can put anything they want in the other, and it's not weighted so that they can make anything have more weight in it in the determining factor.
Beth, you have to remember that this criteria was established since I've been around for a few years. Was in the early 90s when we had some real problems with actually the hiring was done based upon nepotism and cronyism. I've had teachers actually tell me, I was hired, I was never interviewed by anyone, I was hired because of who my husband knew. And the point was that back then we did have real problems with that. So these criteria, these 7 separate steps in this criterion system was established specifically to make sure that we found the best and most qualified person. No one's yet shown us why the criteria that exists today that we use does not find the best and the most qualified person to fill any open position.
Is this the attack on teachers that you refer to, or how does this bill attack teachers?
Well, this is one of the attacks, taking away the faculty senate time and the opportunity for teachers to collaborate together and make some decisions that will help the school, the school calendar, and making it so broad that teachers have no knowledge of when the school is actually going to end. Those are just several of the examples of the attacks on teachers in this bill.
Do you have anything to add in regards to what this bill does and how it attacks teachers?
Well, I think what's been going on for the last several years is this, and it's not necessarily in this bill, but it has happened over a period of time where it's almost like anybody can be a teacher. And it's you diminish the profession and the people who are in the profession who go to work every day, working really hard, wanting the students that they have to perform and to succeed. And this constant bashing of teachers, I think, has had a huge impact on the morale of teachers across the state, and we got to find some way to stop that. I'm sorry, Dale.
No, and I wanted to add, and Beth, this bill does very little to address education reform that is student-centered, that should be centered around student achievement. We had 7 forums. The WVEA had 7 forums across the state after the Vision Shared forums. And they were facilitated by an outside group, actually the same group that did the Vision Shared. And we listened to the experts of public education, the teachers and service professionals who deal with the kids every day. They came up with a list. While the vision share forms didn't come to any conclusions, our forms actually did. And we said that if you would do these things, you would increase student achievement. Things such as develop strategies to reduce the standardized testing, collaboration time for teachers. Of course, no one wants to hear it, but increasing pay so that we're attracting quality teachers into the profession. Not instituting a merit pay system, strategies for parental involvement, and dealing with our truancy issue, which is huge in West Virginia. Those are things that we know will actually improve student achievement. We were hoping this bill would include those things, and yet it doesn't.
Have you spoken with the governor, the House Speaker, the Senate President, the chairs of the education committees about your concerns, and what is their reaction?
We've had ongoing meetings. Matter of fact, we met with some of the governor's folks today, as well as individuals in the Senate earlier today, and we will continue to do that. We want to develop legislation that will, in fact, improve student performance and have elements of real educational reform. So we will continue down that path and to carry our message to the governor, to the Senate leaders, and the House leaders.
What's good about the bill?
Well, there are some good things that we can work on there. The early childhood, getting students involved by the 4-year-old, with some tweaking that can work. The emphasis on having kids reading at grade level by 3rd grade, that's really good. But there's contradictions in the bill because it strengthens the preparation programs to emphasize reading for teachers going into K-3. It adds that teachers that are in those positions will do additional staff development to emphasize the reading. But in the same token, it turns around and allows for a Teach for America program where someone with 5 weeks training could go into these kindergarten classes and teach. So the contradictions are abound in this legislation.
You know, both the governor and the superintendent of schools have said, don't blame the teachers and the administrators for our lack of student achievement. Don't blame the teachers and the administrators. Do you think this bill blames the teachers or punishes them in some way?
Well, I think that it actually doesn't get to the core issues, and that's looking at student achievement. And some of these things that we've talked about earlier has an attack on teachers and continues that attack on teachers. We're not addressing the poverty issue in West Virginia. And the number of our kids, more than 50% of our kids, are on free and reduced lunch. And that has an adverse effect on student achievement. Teachers are doing a tremendous job. I'm one of the luckiest people in the state. I get to travel all over and see the great things happening. And they're doing a tremendous job. They're not satisfied either, and they want to do the things that will improve education, like we said.
I know we will continue talking with you throughout this session as this bill moves through. David Haney and Dale Lee with the West Virginia Education Association, thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth.
And here's a look at some of the bills introduced in the House today.